Welcome to Unofficial Canon, a Star Trek podcast. My name is Tavin.
I'm Brendan.
And we are finally finishing up our conversation on Star Trek, the motion picture.
Man, it's been a long road.
Thank God. This movie hurt in a few places. But you know what? I was surprised. It held up a lot better than I remembered it, but it's still not good.
No, but though, it's not the worst Star Trek movie.
Certainly not.
Even of the original movies. So
Definitely not. I can't wait till we get to why would God need a starship? Moving on. So last episode we left off, VGR had just arrived at Earth and had sent out the signal looking for its creator.
Mm-hmm.
And the creator had not responded.
Yes.
And then VGR decided to put energy nukes in the atmosphere, the same things that like took out the Klingon ship and the what was it, a space station?
The space station as well,
what
yeah.
the space station's name was?
No,
it's unimportant. It only had 2 people on it. That's all we
Yeah.
saw on it. Anyway, so we're confronted with this problem. Kirk is trying to reason with bald cyborg lady probe person.
The best looking zombie in any movie. That's right.
Which again, we've touched on this, but it's just weird that like they were like, we need a beautiful woman to put in this movie, make her bald,
Yeah.
and then halfway through the movie she's gonna die,
Yeah.
be resurrected as like a space probe and talk like a robots. But like she still kind of talked like a robots to begin with, but now we just put this weird effect on her voice.
Yeah. It's Star Trek.
It's 70s Star Trek. The best kind. Anyway, so they're trying to reason with her, and she's just like freaking out. And Kirk decides to just roll the dice and be like, we know why the creator hasn't responded.
Well, yeah, because Spock is like, this is a child, Captain.
Oh, yes. VGR is a child.
We must treat it like a child. To which then the doctor is like, we're going to spank it. And I love Bones, but like, and I realize, 21st century, 1970, whatever, differences and things. But it's just like, no, Bones, we're not going to smack a space probe. We got reason with this thing.
Bones remains one of the best things in these movies. Like, I love it.
I feel like, too, and this is jumping a bit ahead into the movies, but as time goes on, the actor playing him is just like, cares less and less. He's just like, screw it, I'm just being me.
Which totally works.
And it works perfectly.
Anyway, so yeah. Spock drops the knowledge that VGR is like a child, which I guess he found that out when he mind melded with it.
Yeah,
but then refused to share this information until this moment when it was convenient to the plot.
And I mean, I went over this in the last episode. I'm just going to touch on it again briefly. I felt that was really reckless of Spock, this like supposedly logical being, to not only hop in a thruster suit and penetrate all the orifices, but to then be like, I'm going to mind meld with, like, he understands what a mind meld is. That's just risky. And we see the fallout. He cries later.
Well, I mean, from a personal standpoint, he's being called by this consciousness, so it could be like a spiritual experience for him to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. And also, from like a logical standpoint, this could be the end of the Federation.
That's true, and I guess the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one.
Oh, that's like foreshadowing or something. Okay, yeah, so weird when he does that. It's not every day you penetrate the space vagina and then try to mind meld with it.
The innuendo in that scene, like to be in the writer's room for that, it must have been how many sex jokes can we throw in here? Add another one. Spock, you're penetrating more things in your thruster suit.
I wonder because there's the shot of him mind melding with it, and then there's like a bunch of like random footage kind of projected on him. Mm-hmm. I wonder if someone like pulled a Fight Club and spliced one frame of pornography in there.
It's possible.
Anyway, okay, so yeah, we'll call it the VGR probe moving forward. Is like, you have to tell us, Kirk. And he's like, no, I'm not going to tell you unless you take the bombs down. and then they like do this back and forth like 3 times. Like just too many times where it's like, tell us the information. And then like VGR starts rocking the ship. And Kirk's like, no, I won't tell you. And then finally VGR's like, we'll take the bombs down once you tell us. And Kirk's like, God damn it.
Checkmate. Damn.
There's nothing I can do now.
Been outsmarted by a space child.
So So then he comes up with the brilliant bluff of we have to give the information directly to VGR. And the probe VGR's like, okay, sure, whatever.
Let's go.
We proceed to go through. They don't go through the space vagina. They just kind of go through that like open like anus thing.
Yeah.
And then they're kind of there. Like there's not much beyond that.
They took the backdoor shortcut, if you will.
Perhaps. This is also the part where the movie starts to like tell us times. Like for some reason they know that like the Earth has like 30 minutes left.
Oh yeah, Uhura's just like, by the way, Captain, we've got, and I hate time deadlines.
They're the worst. There's, I think it's something to do with the way the bombs are aligning. Like they're aligning in a certain pattern for maximum destruction, and I think they're assuming that once they're in that position,
then bye Earth.
Bye Earth. Which I guess.
I don't know how VGR's space weapons work.
No one does, because he also just turn them on and off. Like it's like a 4-ton torpedo that you can be like, I changed my mind. You just flick a switch and it disappears.
It's just like, we're gonna put this here just to let you know we have these.
Yeah.
We're not gonna turn them on, but they're there and they can kill your planet.
So yeah, they go in, and then Decker, is it Decker? Yeah, Commander Decker.
I kept having like Blade Runner flashbacks whenever his name gets brought up.
First of all, little tangent. We've gone through the whole movie. I don't understand this character. Like at the beginning, when Kirk shows up, he's not Captain Kirk.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get that sense anymore. You get the sense that he's Admiral Kirk now.
Yes.
Like he's grown and he's more reserved and he's older. And then they introduce this Decker character who he like takes over for. And at first I thought, oh, this is going to be like the proto Kirk, who like is like the way Kirk used to be. And then there's this weird dynamic going on. But then Decker is just like a little the whole movie.
Yeah.
And not at all like Kirk.
Well, because I think when the writers sat down to write this movie, they had a problem. And that problem was, after the career Captain Kirk had, there is no way he would still be in command of a single starship. Like, this dude is the poster boy of Federation captaining for the century he's in, right? And so, of course, he's going to be made admiral. But then, if you think about what an admiral does, like, you can't have Star Trek the Motion Picture and be like Kirk in an admiral office for 2 hours doing paperwork. By writing the movie, they had to come up with a way to get Kirk back in the captain's chair. And I think in later movies, they figure out better ways to do that. But this time they're like, well, but we got to stay true to Star Trek, because they come up with a really, really Star Trek plot. And then they're like, but we need Kirk in charge, so we got to make that awkward. And then the moment you do that, you're like, well, then the captain doesn't matter. Because everybody, as soon as Kirk steps on that bridge, he's the focus. No matter what his rank is.
Like, literally all the characters run up to him, and they're all happy that he's there.
Exactly.
But we've touched on all that. The reason I'm bringing this up again is because Kirk says when VGR finally agrees to take them to VGR probe, decides to take them to VGR, he says, let's see if my bluff is called. And then Decker says something very Kirk back to him.
Yeah.
Like, now they're suddenly buddies, when like the whole movie they've been kind of like
butting heads.
Which I'm like, what? So like in my head I'm thinking there must have been an earlier draft, which is what I thought originally. And then they were like, you know what? Admiral Kirk comes off like a real dick in this movie. We got to make him more likable. Oh, how do we do that? Just make Decker kind of, a bland, uninteresting character who only really saves the day once.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's that. I'm moving on. Okay, so the ship goes through VGR and they go to what I am now nicknaming Space Stonehenge.
Yes.
So it's weird because it seems like the saucer section like comes right up against these like weird hexagonal patterned floor.
Yeah, I don't know if you know of the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland, but it's like this rock formation on a beach with like a bunch of different it looks exactly like that, just in nature. So every time I see it, I'm just like, oh, they made it to Belfast.
Oh, that might be
that's where VGR wound up.
But yeah, and there's I don't know if they're using miniatures or not, or a combination, but the shots of them standing on top of the saucer section, it's like, oh God, this is beautiful. This is pretty. I mean, they linger there way too long, which is a continuing sin of this movie.
Yeah, every special effect in this movie lingers too long.
But, that has more to do with the era of filmmaking than anything
exactly.
else. Yeah, I mean, still, we haven't beaten the let's shuttlecraft onto the Enterprise scene. Look, I'm not going to go over that again, but holy crap, like why did the shuttlecraft take that path? We'll never know. But yeah, very beautiful. And it's like, I think right before they left the ship, Uhura says something like, we got 30 minutes or something.
Yeah.
And I just remember looking at this shot and seeing like the light show Stonehenge. And I'm like, that's going to take at least 25 minutes to walk to. At least.
And that would be at a brisk pace.
And then they're just standing there for like 60 seconds or like not maybe like 2 minutes. And I'm like, you guys do not have time to take in the sights.
To be fair, though, they've also they're taking in the sights on the saucer section of the Enterprise, but not in spacesuits. I've got to imagine for people in this century to just like walk out an Enterprise airlock onto the saucer section and just be like, we can breathe, is going to be enough of a mind-blowing experience.
I guess
for
so.
them.
There is a line though where they throw out that like there's atmosphere forming around the ship.
Yeah,
or
Chekhov
something.
is like, Captain, is bubble of air and gravity. And I'm like, gravity doesn't come in a bubble, Chekhov.
Well, apparently it does now. Wasn't a warp bubble just basically a giant bubble of gravity?
Now that I've said gravity doesn't come in a bubble, I'm like really questioning that statement. I am not a scientist, so...
You're not a science officer. You are not a Vulcan.
No. Oh.
I want a Vulcan in that spot.
Moving on. So they get off the Giant's Causeway. And
They apparently walk there.
yeah.
The movie does us the kindness of not showing us them walking there. It's just like they start to walk and then they're there.
I gotta feel like in the Super Director's Cut edition, they've got scenes of them just rolling in there. One thing that blows me away about this movie, just from like, hey, we're making Star Trek movies, the costume budget. Did they really need to come up with special away mission jackets just for this scene with V'ger? Like the gold, man.
You gotta imagine that the costume designers get a little bored on Star Trek movies because, like, I'm sure. Well, specifically this movie, there's no aliens in it,
That's true.
and even on like one the other movies where there's like, oh, there's Klingons at the beginning of this movie. I forget.
Yeah.
But even then, it's like, I'm sure a lot of that falls more under makeup than costume design.
Exactly.
I'm sure it's more tag team. But anyway, just give the costume designers a minute. Just let them put the jackets. You know what would make this outfit complete for your little away mission? A nice jacket.
I don't believe they'd be leaving the ship without jackets.
It might be chilly out there.
Just because there's air and gravity doesn't mean there's hate.
There, in the giant space anus, you never know what the temperature's gonna be.
Absolutely.
So they get there, and this is the moment where it's like the whole culmination of this. This is the moment where someone had this brilliant idea, and they somehow stretched it out to a 2-hour movie, and this is the moment that they were the initial like, what if? So it's revealed that
2 hours in.
it's revealed that V'ger is not V'ger, but it's actually the Voyager 6 space probe, which actually I thought it was more the Voyager 1 space probe, but I think that's just because in my brain I'm like, oh, that's the oldest one.
Exactly.
But for some reason they just picked Voyager 6.
Yeah, I mean,
I suspect that it's because that was the one that had just gone out.
probably.
At the time,
So
yeah.
the movie-going people would be like, I know that probe.
I saw that on the TV machine and listened to it on the radio.
Oh, the 70s.
But it's a brilliant idea. It's like, it's genius. Because, like,
Absolutely.
I can imagine being someone in the 70s and being like V'ger, and then like they have that shot where it goes up and over the crater, and there's the Voyager probe that everyone would know.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I
They'd be
think
like,
that's just amazing.
"Oh, no wonder. It's looking for us. We're the creator.
Yeah, yeah. And then we have some exposition from Probe VGR, or is it from Probe VGR? Someone tells us the information that Probe or VGR went. Oh no, Spock says
No, the black hole.
Yeah,
or maybe it was Spock. Yeah,
it was Spock who says Voyager 6 was last lost through a black hole or something. And
that is one of the technical aspects of this that I've got a problem with. Because if you think sublight probe, even over the course of 400 years, if it's leaving Earth and it gets sucked up by a black hole, that black hole is really, really close, like dangerously close. What black hole sucked it up?
It's a good question.
That was as soon as that came up, and when I've watched this movie before, that question never popped into my head. But like sitting down and watching it from an analytical perspective, because we do good analytical work on this show.
Oh yes.
I was like, wait a second, I don't know if I believe that.
Well, there's a couple things that don't work with the like 400 year time span that they give the V'ger probe.
Yeah.
I never actually thought of the distance thing with the black hole, but my understanding is the black holes can actually be like super tiny.
That's true, and it could be just like a Voyager space probe sized black hole
that comes and goes. They could even have mistaken a black hole for like a wormhole.
True.
Like from Deep Space Nine that kind of opens and closes, but this one like opens and closes every 700 years or something crazy like that, right?
But whenever it detects FM radio, it's just like.
My problem with the time frame is that the reason that VGR comes back is because it thinks it's completed its mission, which its mission was to learn everything possibly learnable.
Yes.
Which, okay, let's say 50 years into its mission, it happens to fall through the black hole, and then this machine race spends 12 months turning this thing into a sentient thing, and then it spends the next 398
whatever
years
it is,
going through the galaxy and learning everything that there can possibly learn, moving at the same speed that it moves towards Earth.
You see, this is why I think, because that opens a really good question, right? Is that if it isn't, because it can't move that slowly, so obviously it's got to move quicker, but then why doesn't it?
Because the plot requires it to move slowly.
Because we've got 30 minutes, Captain.
Yeah, and it only takes them like a couple hours to warp to the thing. Like it's strange. Okay, and then they kind of theorize after they learn that it went through a black hole that some machine race had helped it achieve some kind of consciousness or given it the technology to complete its mission, and then at some point VGR had thought it completed its mission, which they don't actually say directly, but like it's implied.
Yeah, because why else would it come back?
Yeah, and then it decides to come back. So I know we both have some theories.
Yes.
About VGR in the grander canon of Star Trek. So I'll let you go first because I think we have the same theory.
Yeah.
But mine is more...
I think yours is more developed. Because mine is basically whatever black hole VGR came across shot the probe out to the Delta Quadrant. And then it gets picked up by like a Borg cube or a Borg sphere or Borg triangle, whatever at this stage the Borg are using to fly around space. And then they're like, well, we've got to assimilate this. And then they do, and they're like, well, its only job is to go explore, so I guess we'll build a world for it to use to explore. Like, I don't, like, this is where my theory starts to fall apart, because why the hell would the Borg do that? I don't know. But I'm sure that a super advanced machine race in Star Trek is the Borg.
Mm-hmm. So I have the same theory, the Borg connection. And I'm pretty sure mine breaks some stuff that's established in Voyager, because I think in Voyager they at least subtly touch on the origins of the Borg.
Okay.
I think, but I could be wrong.
It's been a long time since
I did not pay attention to that series very much when I was watching it. But so my theory is that the black hole didn't just take it through space.
Oh, it took it through time.
It took it through time. So that solves my 400-year problem. So it went back in time and to a different place, and it met a species of purely mechanical, like just machine race. It's just machine. We're not Borg.
Okay.
And they helped it out, and it went off on its merry way, and several, like maybe a couple thousand years pass, and they didn't give it warp capability for whatever reason, because it didn't really need that, I guess, to complete its mission, because it's a machine, it can just live forever. And so it just went around, collected a bunch of information, and then headed to Earth, and got to Earth, and it assimilated the cute bald lady. That's where it gets the idea for what comes next in the movie.
Oh.
So I'm going to pause it there, and I'll continue my theory once we get to the next little bit, which won't take long. So just put a pin in that. Moving on. So yeah, they get to Voyager. They try to complete its mission by sending out the command code, because Voyager doesn't actually believe that these carbon-based life forms could be the creator.
Exactly.
And they're like, no. And then kind of out of nowhere, the space probe is like, V'ger must become one with its creator. And I had to pause the movie, and I had to go, this is the 70s. This is why this is in the movie. It came out of absolutely nowhere. It's just like that weird, like, spiritual, there's something beyond the logical, like.
Exactly.
So Decker, it's revealed that the only reason he's in this movie is so that he can sacrifice himself at the end.
Yes, he has a point now.
Not really sacrifice, but like become one with V'ger and end the movie.
Well, then this is where, because like when you talk to someone who doesn't like watch a lot of Star Trek or whatever, and you bring up Captain Kirk, the idea that he's the guy who's like always boning alien ladies and is just like this pimp / space womanizer. I guess we could put that the other way. Womanizer / space pimp. That works better. You know, it's like all he thinks about is sex. But then you got this Captain Kirk replacement who throws away a very promising career at Starfleet. I mean, he's the captain of the Enterprise, which is like, you know, that's you're the next Kirk. Like that's Starfleet being like, you got what it takes, buddy. Throws all this away just so he can bang a space probe once?
Well, it's not even bang. I don't know. It's like, I agree with you, but at the same time, it's like, this is probably the ultimate version of to boldly go where no man has ever gone before.
Okay, yeah, no, that's true.
Right? Because we're not talking about, this is like Star Trek Discovery if it was good. where they're like, you know, it's that scene where he's telling the stupid captain who can't see so good with the light. He's like, with the spore technology, we could explore different dimensions and stuff. Like, this is basically the same thing, where it's like, we're gonna go to higher dimensions and we're gonna find out. What Decker doesn't know is that there's just the Terran Empire there, and there's nothing really interesting there.
Oh my! I love this. The movie ends with the big V'ger space orgasm. They turn into light, and then they reform, and it's just above Earth, but it's the Terran Empire.
Yeah.
All these starships surround them. They're just like, we're gonna kill you. Oh wait, no, you're human. You can work in the mines. But this weird bald lady, we're gonna kill her.
Anyway, so yeah, Decker merges with V'ger, and then Spock, Bones, and Kirk have to run back to the ship. And I'm like, again, I'm thinking like, they are 25 minutes away from their ship. How long does it take for them to merge, right? And it doesn't seem like it takes very long.
No, just long enough for them to get back on the bridge.
Just long enough. But I'll return to my theory. So my theory is that when V'ger merges with Decker, V'ger sends information back to the machine race via some crazy subspace transmission of some kind. Like, it basically says like, I accomplished my mission and here's what I did, right?
Oh.
And they're like, oh, you merged with a human, and they don't, or a carbon-based life form, and they don't fully comprehend.
Right, because it's like a game of telephone, right?
They don't understand the information quite correctly.
V'ger would be like, I merged with my creator and I've ascended to a higher being. And then these machines would be like, so how do we merge?
Yeah.
Borg.
And then the timeline, you could just say that the information went back through the black hole or something. Right?
It's Star Trek. It's easy to make up.
Because I know that they established Borg and Enterprise, but...
Yeah, right? Well, and we know that from the wonderful Next Generation action movies that the Borg show up with Zefram Cochrane way back. So they're already time traveling.
They were time traveling. So there's time things. There's space, time, gravity.
I like that. I like the idea that V'ger and Decker merging was like Proto-Borg.
Yeah.
And then that...
Well, it was the perfect Borg, and then the Borg just didn't understand
Yeah.
it fully. Because my other theory is that VGR didn't really have that idea until it turned What's-Her-Face into a probe. Mm-hmm. And that was like an imperfect version of the merger because she still had the memories that made her slightly human. And so VGR was kind of aware at that point what it meant to be human.
Right.
And then VGR wanted the full thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's to just join on an energy level and ascend to the higher dimensions or whatever.
Which did give us a beautiful shot of the Enterprise flying away from a sunset.
Yeah.
It seemed like, you know.
Because the Borg are closer to the probe lady than they are to the perfect version,
Oh, absolutely,
right?
yeah. Absolutely.
But they're
yeah.
even a more messed up version.
Well, yeah, it's like if you wrote someone who'd never seen a sandwich instructions on how to make a sandwich, right? And so you say you cut the bread into 2 pieces, and then you smear some sauce and filling, and you close it, right? And so we all know who see a sandwich what that looks like. But now imagine if you didn't describe how to cut the bread and someone just cut it on a different plane. Like it wouldn't look like a sandwich, right?
Yeah.
But it would still kind of be there. This is the same thing. VGR's like, I merged with my creator and it's great. And the Borg are like, well, the machine parts of the Borg are like, we got to start merging with these things.
Yeah.
Let's go see what happens.
And then the Borg are created.
And then they go find, out in the Delta Quadrant, Kazon Sex or whatever it is, and they're just like, you're us now, crazy dreadlock Klingons.
Yeah. So that's
but then we get the nice little closing.
First of all, VGR explodes, but the Enterprise is fine.
Well, I think it's an explosion of something that's not, it's a metaphysical explosion.
I see.
It's not the ship blowing up.
It's just like this epic light show, and you're like, holy shit, what happened to the Enterprise? And we just have this lens flare disappear, and there it is. It's okay, everybody. Don't worry. Your favorite characters are fine.
I'd like to also note that J.J. Abrams didn't ruin Star Trek by adding lens flare, because lens flare has been a part of this series from the beginning.
That's true.
It's
very true.
Same as the use of the blah. Like Michael Bay ripped that off 20 years later. When they go up and they're like, here's VGR.
Well, at least they didn't incorporate that into what became the most classic Trek song track, that da na 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 na, which I forgot. I still can't get over that that's in the first movie, and then it became so closely tied to TNG afterwards.
I know, right? It was a surprise. So after the metaphysical explosion, we get the nice little shot on the bridge of the 3 back together. For whatever reason, Starfleet isn't like, okay, well, we're sending a different captain to the Enterprise now, Admiral Kirk. They're just like, my
favorite thing is like he's like, set course, and someone's like, where to? And he's just like, out there.
Out there.
He literally says out there and makes this motion. He says something else after, like, let's see what we... But I would love if the movie just ended with, like, out there.
Yeah.
And then just, like, sweeping shot of the exterior of the Enterprise.
And it does tie everything into a nice little bow, because they're like, don't worry, Mr. Spock, we'll have you back on Vulcan in 4 days. And he's like, oh, I don't need to go back. I've found everything I need, and it's here. And you're like, oh Spock. And then Bones says something bonesy. And then, Kirk's like, we're going there. And then so it shuts down, and then the closing line.
Oh, you have the closing line written down.
The closing line. Because I thought after sitting through this, and then up on the black screen in the yellow Star Trek font is, as my hat hits the pop filter, the human adventure is just beginning. And it's like, okay, I like the 3, Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. That's great. I'm glad that they're back together. They're not all of humanity. Not even by a long shot. So that's just,
I think it's more of like the optimistic future stories are not done. Well, they're done until the next movie, which is not super optimistic at all. It's more like, oh crap, we screwed up, and now we got this crazy person trying to kill me.
Well, and I think now that we're at the end of the movie, this movie would have been a better two-parter on TV.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I think when they sat down to write a Star Trek movie, obviously with it being the first one, they didn't understand what we do now, which is when you sit down and watch a Star Trek episode, you're in a different mindset than when you sit down and watch a movie. And I think, later on they go a bit too far, and that's how we get action movie Picard. But, Wrath of Khan, it's Wrath of Khan wouldn't work as a two-parter.
Well, unless you cliffhangered on them being stuck in the cave, I think it would be hard to fit the story in the time slots of it. I think this movie you definitely could. And I didn't do any research on the development of the story, but I wouldn't be surprised if this was like a spec script that Alan Dean Foster wrote for TOS, and then they just developed into the motion picture. Because I know that this was a direct. This was because 2001, right?
That was like early 70s.
That
wasn't it?
No, that was late 60s. So that was.
Oh, yeah, of course, because that's where all the moon landing theories come from.
I think the reason I think about 2001, because this movie feels a lot like 2001. It feels like here's really long science fiction effects.
Mm-hmm. And usually I'm a nerd for those. I enjoy when movies put those in. Like some of the shots in Blade Runner, both the old Blade Runner and the new one, the Quebecois produced one, are beautiful. And I love those because it's awe-inspiring, right? And a lot of sci-fi these days doesn't take the time to just be like, here's a beautiful establishing shot. Just enjoy what we're showing you. Star Trek the Motion Picture does that too much.
Well, there's parts. Like, for instance, we talked about it. We'll talk about it again. The shuttle scene of like it's obviously that like the miniatures guys just like shot whatever they wanted, and then they like cut it together. And the shuttle takes like the weirdest path like the longest path imaginable to the docking bay. And there's no reason for it. But then there's the Stonehenge shots, which are like, they're not too long, and it's cool and it's interesting. And like, they also did a really good job on those shots, opposed to the shuttlecraft shots, where it's like when it's a shot looking through the viewport of the shuttlecraft, oh my God, it's like Kirk and Scotty look bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
The actual shots of like the Enterprise, though, like the miniature work on this movie, watching it on Blu-ray was like, wow.
Well, and this is the golden age of miniature time, really.
True.
Like this is when everyone's getting them right, and it is beautiful, and it, you can do a lot of neat things with CG. What you can't do with CG is make it look real, and you film a model, and without much work, instantly you're like, that's a real thing.
We're getting better on the detail on CGI, but yeah, it's weird when you see, like, the opening shot with the Klingons, just the detail on the ships is like, you could never achieve it. Looks so real. There's so much depth to it. It looks really good. The only thing in this movie that at this time that they're still struggling with, and I also realized that this could have been my particular Blu-ray copy, was that they still have issues compositing things at this era. Like, it just doesn't quite match. Like, there's some shots where it's just the Enterprise or the Klingon ships against like the void of space with stars in the background. Looks amazing. The moment they're in front of like the VGR cloud,
oh yeah,
it's broken. We talked about this a long time ago, but like the scenes on Vulcan look horrible.
Sorry, but
they're like so bad. I cannot like, and I don't know if it's because when they transferred my copy, they just degrained it so bad that it's all that film noise that was hiding those effects is gone now. But yeah, no, there's some great stuff in this movie.
It's just, yeah.
It just could be a little.
I remember as a kid, it was my second least favorite Star Trek movie. I think I'd put it higher, but it wouldn't get much higher. Like, there's no way this is getting ahead of my personal 3 favorites of, in no particular order, well, I guess in chronological order, Wrath of Khan, Voyage Home, Undiscovered Country. But I would definitely put the motion picture above 5
Oh yeah.
and Search for Spock.
Yeah, Search for Spock's weird.
It's
I guess that's what we do next, isn't it?
well, no, we get Khan next,
Oh yes, Khan and then Search
and
for
then
Spock.
Search for Spock.
Okay, so we get a good one, and then we get a.
But that's the nice thing about the Star Trek movies is you start off weird, and then you get good, bad. TNG action verse.
It's true. I'm so glad that we're not doing Star Wars movies because
Oh my God, could you imagine?
It would be bad.
Bad. Better.
Well,
I like Rogue One.
I guess we would do Rogue One, yeah, and then good.
Good, great.
Oh, best.
Yeah.
And then good.
Yeah.
And then good again.
Yeah.
And then. Okay. Well, I'm glad that we're doing Star Trek. I'm glad. Anyway,
too.
I think we're done. Is there any last thoughts on this motion picture? This motion picture show?
I think it gets a worse rap than it deserves.
I think so too.
You know, and I think watching it again helped me understand that. I would say if you're going to sit down and watch it, do a 2-parter. Watch an hour and a bit, and then like hit the pause button, get up, go do something else. Treat it like Chain of Command if you're watching TNG, right? And take a little break between the 2 episodes and then come back to it. It's a lot easier to do it that way.
I think so too. Great performances,
Oh,
good
absolutely.
special effects. Still, I think one of the most creative and original sci-fi stories that we've seen on the big screen.
And now that you've listened to us, you know how the Borg started.
That's true. That's your deep
canon dive.
head canon dive for this episode. Anyway, so thank you for tuning in for all these episodes. We know that it was kind of a gruel. Mm-hmm.
We're getting better.
Well, I think we are
I think
too.
so.
We will. The next time you tune in, we'll be talking about Wrath of Khan.
God.
I'm excited.
Me too.
All right. Thank you again for listening, and we will see you next time.
See ya.